Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cornhole Culture. I'm your host, Miguel Villa, and I am back with David and Tyler. How are you guys doing?
How's it going, Miguel?
Good, man. Good.
So, last weekend, me and David went to qualifier number 5, and we expected it to be outside up into Thursday. So, in this episode, I want to talk about playing outside versus playing inside. And then I think there's a lot of nuances that people don't know about, or people might know about it, but we don't talk about it. It seems like more experienced players know what to do in certain situations when they're playing outside versus inside, depending on um, where the boards are and so forth. So, what I want to start with is David, you were really excited that it was going to be outside. I was a little excited that it was going to be outside, especially during all rounders. So people don't know, when you do go to a qualifier, you play rounders for you to get seated, and then they put you into the single elimination bracket. So the rounders were going to be outside. It was on Friday. And then last minute on Thursday, they switched it back to
It's
inside.
Friday morning, actually. Friday morning they
Friday
came
morning?
out. Yeah,
Okay.
because
So Friday morning they switched it, back to inside because of potential rain. Now, why were you? I was excited because I love playing outside. You, David, you saying that you play, you're one of the better players with outside play.
yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm one of the better players in the country when it comes to outside play. I throw hard. I've a flat bag when I need it to be flat, and I mean, I've been playing for a long time. So when I first started playing, it was all outside. Even before I played in ACL or any big tournaments, it was all playing outside. So just the way I throw and just what I've been accustomed to throwing, I think I'm just more natured for outside.
And I think it benefits the more experienced players
Oh, for sure.
for outside tournaments. Like Tyler, you're really new at this. What do you prefer? Because you played in both. You play regionals, outside and inside, and now we're starting to play more outside now because of the weather. Obviously, a lot of backyard players, tailgate people. That's what they grew up on, was playing outside. And some people might not even never played inside before when they haven't went to a tournament. So, what do you prefer?
I mean, if I had to choose a preference, I would say inside. Why would I say inside? I mean, I've also played outside my whole life. When I say whole life, I mean like in my grandma's backyard at a family event once every couple months. But I didn't know that people played bags inside. It kind of sounded crazy. So my first regional ever was outside. I did pretty good, but that was all I knew. When I started playing in more indoor tournaments and became, as David said, natured to indoor play, it was like, man, I don't have to worry about sun in my eyes. I don't have to worry about wind blowing in my face one way and out of my face the other. I don't have to worry about humidity because it's usually more controlled inside. And when you want to get good at this game, I mean, the best way to get good at the game is to take out all the variables. And then after you take out all the variables, like the sun, the wind, the humidity, just focus on your rhythm or your mechanics. When you play outside, all of those variables come back to life, and it's not so much just your mechanics, it's how can you adapt. So as being a new player, I would say I'm not nearly as good as adapting as someone like yourself or David or other good players in the country. I think I can hang. I think I can play. It's not like I throw absolutely terrible outside, but as far as where, what I want to play if I had to perform inside.
Now, David, obviously Tyler mentioned a lot of variables, and let's just start naming all the variables on playing outside, and pretty much what we need to do to kind of throw a better game. So
I mean, the wind is the key factor there. I mean, what people think about when they think about playing outside is wind. I mean, a lot of people don't like playing outside because they don't like dealing with wind and they don't like adjusting. A lot of the people that throw soft, throw high lobs, the wind's going to catch their bag and take it wherever. They're not going to have true control of the bag. I throw a pretty low bag. I like throwing sticky bags, so I mean, I can throw as hard as I want. So that's another thing to take into consideration when you're playing outside. It's because you're fighting through the wind. It's going to do different things to your bag because you're throwing differently. Your bag's going to do different things when you hit a board. So if you're throwing a faster bag and you're going into the wind, you're going to have to throw it harder to catch or go through the wind. But because you're throwing it harder, that faster bag, when it hits the board, it's going to
fly off. Yeah,
exactly. And then the same thing with going with the wind. If you're going with the wind, your bag's just naturally going to go faster. So people that throw fast bags have to really take something off of it when they're going into the wind. So, I mean, I prefer sticky bags. So, I mean, sticky bags.
Outside is ideal.
Yes. You definitely have an advantage if you can throw a sticky bag outside because you can deal with the wind easier. A lot of these newer players have only thrown faster bag, and that's all they know. So they're not really used to adjusting to the wind, first of all, or adjusting to be able to throw stickier bag.
Right.
So the wind is the main thing to think about when you're playing outside, but there's plenty of other factors like the tilt of the board, if it's slanted left to right or uphill downhill. If it's slanted left or right, there's a better side of the board to be on.
So 2 weeks ago, we were in a tournament in Wisconsin and we were playing outside. And we were in a parking lot and the boards were heavily tilted on one side, either or, depending on what board you were on. When you play in a tournament or if you're just playing cash games or whatever, people do flip coins and stuff and, you get to choose what side you want.
It's a big decision there.
So for the people that don't know, tell us the secret of choosing the right side.
So if the board's slanted left and right, you want to choose the side that would be going against the slant.
Okay.
Rather than with the slant. Because if you're going with the slant, you're going to only have a very small landing area.
Right.
Because let's say you're on the right side and the board's slanted to the left. So you're throwing at the board and slanted to the left. So you're on the outside. You have to aim all the way to the right side of the board because it's going to be kicking left into the hole.
Right.
Well, if you aim too far to the right, you're going to miss the board.
Yeah, there's no board left.
If you land in the middle, you're going to kick left and miss. So if you're on the other side, the left side, you're going against the slant, your bag's not going to kick as much, and you have even more room than you normally would have. Because instead of having half the board, you're going to have half the board plus the extra portion for where it will kick back into the hole.
Right. So
if the boards are slanted left or right, one side to the other side, you want to go against the slant. You don't want to go with the slant. So, I mean, that whenever you get a coin toss and you're choosing side, that's a really big factor to consider. You want to make sure you choose the correct side.
Yeah, because, before, 3 years ago, I had no idea which side was the better side. I had to play myself and, after.
It's out there now, yeah.
Yeah.
Any good player would know that, but.
But good players. So, we literally don't talk about it. We don't tell the new players, hey, this is the side you want, because we want to get the better side. When, if you win the flip or they win the flip and they chose the wrong side, it's
your own fault. Yeah, you'll go up to the board, you'll talk with your partner, be like, hey, man, we want this side.
Right.
You choose it, we'll choose this. And you don't want them to hear it because, there's always a chance they don't see the same thing you do or they're not even thinking about it.
Right.
So you want to go up to the board. First thing you want to look at is if it's slanted uphill, downhill, or left or right. And if it's slanted left or right, what side of the board you want. It could be both. It could be uphill, downhill, and left or right. So all things to consider there.
Yeah, so when me and Tyler were playing a game, we ended up losing the toss, and we were playing Jay Rubin and Phil Lopez, and they chose a better side. And Tyler had to throw against the tilt, and he literally had a 3-inch landing spot. Otherwise, the bag would go with the hole.
And my bag naturally has a right to left, turn.
Right.
That's why I'm able,
So
from when my arm is on the inside of the board, I'm able to go like a wrap shot or a roll shot or all these kinds of things that I'm able to do just because my throw naturally goes right to left. And if you're thinking about it and you're throwing, right to left and the board's like this, you're landing here and it's already going right to left and then it just goes off the board. And it was really, really, really tough. I mean, straight up the middle was off the board before it even got to the hole. So I had to ride the right side, and Jay just, he's going. Yeah, absolutely.
Now you mentioned uphill, downhill. Again, people don't know, the difference. I guess, what is there an advantage compared to?
It just depends on the type of thrower you are. If it's going to be slower, if you're going uphill, you have to throw airmails a little harder. If you're throwing downhill, you don't have to throw it as hard. I mean, people usually say if you're throwing downhill or with the wind, it's easier to throw an airmail than it is uphill against the wind. So, I mean, it's just something to consider along with with the wind against the wind.
Right.
If it's uphill, downhill, people usually take wind into consideration first before uphill, downhill.
Yeah. And again, I never realized. And even if it's uphill, downhill by, 6 inches or whatever, and you don't see it, you don't see it until an experienced player. There's a lot of times where we're playing and David's like, "Oh, it's uphill, downhill." I was like, "What? No, it's not." I didn't even notice. So once he says it, I was like, "Damn, it is uphill, downhill." So now I need to adjust from each side, either throw harder or higher going uphill, and then just throw softer going downhill. So it's definitely a huge difference. Even if those is 6 inches, if nobody brings it up, that's another secret that people really, when you're going uphill, downhill, people don't bring that up.
Yeah.
Sometimes, Chris Novi, he's famous for this. He gets in your head so much, "Oh, I think it's uphill right now. I think it's uphill." And it's not uphill. It's probably perfectly straight.
Yeah, this is a warning. If anyone sees Chris Novi at a tournament and he starts talking to you about distance of the board or uphill or downhill, he's probably lying to you. There's plenty of times I've been thinking in my head, "Hey, these boards feel a little bit long," and then Novi will turn to you and be like, "Hey, man, these boards are short," just because he wants you to think the complete opposite of what they actually are.
Right.
So,
people do that. It's
make your own decisions. If it's feeling uphill, if it's feeling downhill, boards are short, boards are long. Think about that yourself in your head. Don't let someone else get in your head and tell you that. Because Novi is 100% famous for that. No question.
Now, Tyler, I want another thing is depth perception. I think that Trey Ryder was talking about this in the broadcast last week, and when it's an open field outside, it might seem the boards are either further away from you or close from you. There's a lot of times in tournaments. I go to tournaments, and you tell yourself, "Man, these boards look really, really close to each other," or "Man, these boards look really, really far away." What has been your experience with the depth perception? They are 27 feet, but when a board is against a wall, you're looking into a wall, and then you're looking away from the wall. What's your experience with that perception?
That's a really good point. And to be so honest, I can't think of a time where I noticed it and then I adapted and that I threw better because of it. But I can think of plenty of times, especially throwing outside, but even inside, as a new player, and this goes for so many people out there, I promise I'm speaking for them too. You just are why am I throwing so bad? What am I doing wrong? I just practiced before I came to this tournament inside in my hallway, like, or in my garage. And now I'm out here at this tournament outside and I'm throwing like shit.
Yeah.
What am I doing wrong? I'm not doing anything wrong, right? Why does my bag keep flying off the back of the board? Or why does it feel like this? Or why do I keep doing this? It's kind of demoralizing. And I think that what it really comes down to is being able to identify that it's not consistent. The distance may be consistent, but the wind won't be, and the humidity won't be, and the tilt of the board won't be, uphill, downhill won't be. So being able to identify is the key. If you can identify, then you understand, okay, this is uphill, I have to throw it a little bit harder, or this is downhill, I can take a little bit off and still be able to get the bag to the hole. If you don't do that, you're going to throw the same, it's just as hard one way as you throw the other, and you're going to have a strong side and a weak side, and then you're going to try and adapt on the weak side, and you're going to throw off your strong side. So being able to identify, and I am trying to get as good as possible at this as quickly as possible, but it's just one of those things that comes with time, and I got to put a lot more time in to really get to that point.
Yeah, you need to experience every single scenario that's out there. David's been playing for a while. He almost experienced everything that's out there. David, have you noticed that perception being an issue? Like,
I mean, yeah. I mean, I try not to let that bug me or anything, but I mean, it definitely plays a factor into like what you're used to. I mean, dim lighting versus bright lighting, or having a wall directly behind the board, or a wall 20 feet behind the board, or playing in a wide open field. They all have different feels to it. Everything looks slightly different. I mean, same with people walking behind the boards or anything. You just want to try to block it out and just focus on the same thing, regardless of where you're playing. I mean, if you're focusing on the hole, the lane of the board, the back of the hole, like someone else's bag, or where you want a specific spot on the board where you want your bag to land, just wherever you're focusing on at home, you just want to focus on that same thing.
I know.
I mean, yeah, everyone focuses on different things. Me personally, like I think of like a lane, or just like a landing strip. Okay, I want my bag to land here and continue on this motion up the board into the hole. Same with an airmail. I mean, I look at the spot where I want to hit of the hole and aim for that. Everyone has like picks like the man throwing with the ACL logo, or like one of the letters. Me personally, I picture a lane or a strip and want the bag to continue on that path up the board.
Now, I know in nationals, most of the nationals, the boards are on concrete, and there is really nothing like underneath the boards. So the boards, like every single time the bag hits the boards move.
Yeah.
And a lot of new players don't stop and like fix the boards before they throw. I remember watching your game versus Dave Sutton, I think in Florida.
Yeah.
And like pretty much like almost every single time before you guys threw, you fixed the board.
Yeah.
How big of a you always have your partners like, hey, move the board, the back that way or the front this way. If the board is an inch or 2 inches off center, how big is that difference?
Me personally, I check the board all the time. When I'm playing singles and I'm walking back and forth, I look at the board as I'm walking up to it to grab the bag. So like, I like the boards being as
Straight
perfect
as possible.
Yeah, straight as possible, as lined up as possible. I'm almost always touching the board when I go to pick up the bags. I'm hitting it one way or another just because I want it to be fair. I want it to be even, but at the same time, I mean, I practice that way too. So if it's crooked one way, or if the board's completely off center, that's gonna throw everyone off a little bit. You're not your muscle memory isn't adjusted to that. Same with just looking at it, if it's on the line or not. I mean, people, if you can't see the line, there's no saying it's half inch over. It could be 3 inches short.
Right.
So pull it back or push it forward just to make that, because it does make a difference. It really does.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of players, even myself, when I have a bad game or I lose a game, I go back to that court and like double check, like, and then put it what it's supposed to be. It's like, this is why I lost. It was 3 inches off center. Like, and I see a lot of people doing that.
Yeah.
But, you know,
I mean, it's at the same time, if you miss like 2 or 3 bags in the same spot, you'll see someone stand behind the board and like look to see if it's lined up. Like, okay,
right.
yeah, I'm off. Or the whole board shifted to the right. That's why I keep going to the right, or
right.
something like that. So, I mean, it is something to consider and look at. I do it all the time. So,
Tyler, as a new player, do you focus on that, or do you even like acknowledge that as much as experienced players do?
I do not touch the board nearly every time. So I mean, it's fairly obvious, you would think, at least when the board is off. I mean, almost always, if it's off a considerable amount, you can tell, and you take a break before you guys start throwing and you move it, and, you go on from there. But maybe once, 2, 3 times a game. Nowhere near, every single time. I think most of the time, I mean, for the players listening, like what David's saying, yeah, I mean, you're entitled to touch the board as many times as you want, but you don't have to. The chances are, I mean, it didn't move that much. In order to keep it consistent, in order to keep it perfect, you probably have to touch it every time. But for the people listening, like, oh man, I don't ever adjust the board. I don't ever. You're probably okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, if I get down to a board that I'm throwing on and I turn around and get ready to throw and I notice the board's crooked, I don't always go and walk down to the other side and adjust it. I would just make a mental note, like when this round's over, walk down there, I'm gonna hit a board a little bit this way. The only time I like stop a game to walk down to the other side is like if it's super far off, it's noticeably wrong. But a lot of the times I'm just making a mental note. Okay, when I walk down after this frame, I'm gonna hit the back this way a little bit. Or I'm gonna pull the board forward, straighten it out. It's just a lot of like mental notes, like when I'm picking up the bags, oh, this needs to be bumped this way a little bit.
Right.
So I usually don't stop the game to walk down unless it's really bad. And a lot of the time in doubles, if I'm making them in, I let the opponent say something, even if I notice, if I notice it's really crooked and I'm making them in, like, okay,
right,
I'll wait for him to say something.
Right. Another secret. The last thing I want to talk about are board conditions compared from outside to inside. So Trey Ryder was talking about this. When it's very sunny outside, no matter like sometimes, depending on the humidity, but most of the time, the boards are very, very fast when it's sunny, and the sun is directly hitting the board. Once the sun starts setting, going down, then the boards get slower and slower and slower. David, yesterday you texted us saying you were practicing, and you said they were the fastest boards that you ever played on.
Throwing sticky bags, they were flying up the back, even not stepping. They were so fast. Very true.
So another board condition is when we're playing in grass. So I think it was 2 years ago, we went down to Florida for that first national that was outside, and we're playing out in the outfield. So in the morning, the boards were really fast because the sun was hitting them. As soon as the sun went down, those boards got so sticky. I mean, you couldn't even like slide it up at all whatsoever. I couldn't find a bag that could like slide up. I think there was somebody that had checkmates that were just flying and they were way too fast.
And those are Trey Bertram. Yeah, I remember that.
And that was the only bag that was moving. So throughout the day in the tournament, the board conditions change. What's your adjustment on when the boards change because of when you're outside, because of the humidity and because of the sun and so forth?
I mean, it just comes back to being able to throw different bags. I mean, during the hot temperature hours of the day, you're going to have to throw something a little bit stickier. You're going to have to be able to cut through the wind and then slow down when it hits the board. But as you notice the sun starting to set, the boards are going to start to slow down, and you're going to have to be able to adjust. I mean, you're just going to have to take it game by game, and just notice if it's slowing down, you might need to switch bags. Um, so I'm one of those people that I don't mind sticky boards. The stickier the board, the better for me. I feel like I can slide through anything. So, um, but as the sun goes down, there's not going to be as much wind most of the time. So um, the boards will get stickier, but you're going to lose a lot of the wind. So you're just going to have to adjust your game, and the bag selection from there. I mean, the main thing there is bag selection.
Now, Tyler, have you ever switched bags in the middle of a tournament because of the conditions changing from the beginning of the tournament till, at the end?
Yeah. The only way I've ever switched back, I mean, I prefer slow bag. I prefer to play the block game and the go around game and the, go roll over this kind of. The only change I've ever made is from a faster to a slower bag. A while ago when Vipers are still super popular, but, I was throwing my Pro Advantages, slow bag, got to throw it flat, hard down the middle. And yeah, I was playing against these guys that I just got killed by that I like, I don't want to say I consider myself better than, but I beat more times than not. And they just got these new bags, these Vipers. And I mean, I'm getting clobbered. And I'm like, man, I see this guy warming up. I see all these people. I see this person I'm throwing against throwing Vipers. I'm going to try and throw a fast bag like an all slide or something like that. I'm going to try and hang with this guy. And I just can't because my throw's too hard. I'm launching bags off the back, or I'm babying it, trying to, throw it higher, throwing it in front of the board, blah, blah, blah. So switching to a slower bag. But I would prefer slower boards just like David than fast. That allows me to throw my blocks at a higher percentage of the time, which, like I said, is the game that I enjoy playing. The biggest thing about switching bags is for all the people that like game changers, and for the small amount of people that like probably cheetahs or slide rights, that kind of suede, like that wet feeling humid suede, or like the game changer patch, they'll start like skipping on a really slow board, where like that is not the bag you want to throw because it will never be consistent. You have to put the same exact amount of rotation. You have to throw it in the same line of flight for it to do the same thing every time. Other than that, it's going to bite or skip or hop or roll or do all these weird things. So, I see people who like the game changer patch. They say it's a perfect slow side. They hate the all slide because they think the game changer is better. But when it comes to super sticky, they flip it over to that slick side that they never use because the patch is just way too inconsistent. So getting to know your bags and getting to know when the bag is not doing what it usually does, it's good to have a bag or two to fall back on and say, I think this is a good switch. I've done that, probably quite a few times.
Yeah, it's a great idea to have, as a new player, to buy multiple bags, a fast bag, a medium fast, and a slow bag to have in your arsenal. Break them down, because there's a lot of times where people have bags and like they go to a tournament, but they want to use that bag, but it's too new. So now they're asking other players to, borrow bags because of the conditions that change. So the last thing I want to talk about is, the board conditions outside change. It's very obvious. But the board's conditions inside change as well. And it depends on, where the board's placement is. So obviously, they all of them change together from like a humidity standpoint. If it gets more humid in the room, or once people start going into the building, everything starts changing because now there's more people in there, there's more body temperature and so forth. But I also noticed that when a board is closer, let's say you're in AC conditions, and I just experienced this last weekend. The board closest to the door to go outside, that board was the stickiest board in the room. So when, if you're assigned to that board, you need to realize that. You need to realize that because that board is closest to the door, it's going to be stickier than any other board that you played on. So you need to realize that and adjust and probably change bags, even though, you have 14 other boards that are sort of playing similar, but that one board, either in the corner all the way in the back or closest to the door, might be different.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, it's different based on the conditions. Like if it's during the winter and the boards are kind of slow inside and someone's opening a door that's cold outside, it's bringing the cold air and it's going to speed up that board.
Right.
So that board close to the door will be a lot faster than maybe even the other board that you're playing on. So like one board will be sticky like the rest of them. The one right by the door could be fast. We experienced the same thing at one of Josh Keck's regionals during the winter. The main board was right next to the door where everyone was going outside to smoke. That was the only door that everyone out. Constantly being open and closed. That board right there was super fast. When you turned around through the other direction, it was sticky, just like the rest of them. So it definitely is something to take into consideration. Not all, I mean, you could change bags, but just take a mental note and change your throw when you're throwing on that board. Yeah. If we backtrack on a very similar topic, when you're throwing outside, throwing with the wind outside on a tilted board, your gameplay is going to be different. You need to play your game. You need to strategize differently. You shouldn't be going for nearly as many airmails as you would be inside. It's going to be way tougher to hit an airmail outside than it is inside. At the same time, curving bags and rolling bags is way tougher outside than inside. Like we talked about, a board being slanted left or right. If you're going with the slant and you're trying to curve a bag against the slant, you're not going to be able to. The slant is going to overpower your curve bag. You're not going to be able to curve a bag if the board is super slanted one way. The slant of the board will definitely take your bag and continue to push it that way. You're not going to be able to curve against it. So that is another key factor of playing outside. Your gameplay has to be differently. I mean, laying up outside is good. Let the other person shoot an airmail. He's not going to be hitting 60, 70% of his airmails. They'll be hitting 30, 40, 50, if that, depending on how strong the wind is and how uphill, downhill they are. So laying up for a point is fine outside. Not doing crazy curve shots is fine outside. Not being aggressive when the other person has bags hanging, let them go for the airmail. They're most likely not going to hit it. I mean, not on a consistent basis. So playing outside, your gameplay definitely has to be different.
Great point. And this weekend, we're having a regional outside here in Chicago. I think our very first regional here in Chicago this year for this season was outside.
First two.
Oh, first two?
Yeah, first
two.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go back outside. So it's definitely going to be different play. Hopefully
all the colors will show.
There has been a lot of shit talking the past 3 months now that we haven't been quarantined and people are eager to come out and play.
Yeah, people have not been able to play for a while, so hopefully we get a good showing and hopefully it's good weather. That's the main thing.
Yeah. So thank you guys. I'll see you guys on Saturday. Hopefully me and Tyler take down doubles. Tyler, we're playing together, right? I just wanted to...
You can take them. It's all good.
All right, everybody. Thanks again for joining me again. I think you guys are great to talk to, and it makes these podcasts a lot easier for me. So thank you. And
of course,
cool. Everybody out there, to recap, you guys need to adjust to these outside inside conditions. We gave you a lot of secrets today, so don't share them. Have somebody listen to this for them to get the secrets. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Sweet. Take care, guys.